Welcome, everyone. Um, Zala and I are here to talk about the value of using AI assistance in designing integrated learning. Okay, we're both from the Minnesota State system, colleges and universities. Um, I've I teach at several of them in the IT area, and we love doing sessions like this. My specialties are cybersecurity and AI, and I will let Zala continue and introduce himself.
Well, I'm Zala Fashant. I was a dean. I was a college professor in the Minnesota State System when I was working there. I live in Greece now, as well as Minneapolis, and I jump back and forth for a variety of things. Obviously, Greece is nicer in the wintertime, and so I spend more of my time here at that point and come back during the summer in Minnesota for a little bit. But what's very interesting is Karen and I have been staying in touch about all of these different things that she's gotten to practice and that I've gotten an opportunity to work with both educators and business people on. And so today we're really going to focus on kind of a case study. It's really a case study, and I'm going to just use one example because I think those of you who love Claude or Gemini or all of the rest, you certainly can apply this to those. I'm just going to talk about the one I'm sort of used to, only because I've been a ChatGPT member for a long period of time. And so anyway, let's see, did we jump into that right? Yes, we did. Okay, sorry about that. So one of the things that we want to do is how are faculty and instructional designers using AI assistants most? And some of this information, of course, I've developed and that we've worked with folks on, and some of it I've picked up from AI to be able to use with you here. But it really gives us a chance to kind of take a look at content creation. Number one use, most widely used, really to speed up course development, content production that way. You can see how faculty are using it. You can see how instructional designers are using it. Those of you who are one of the two, you probably know all this information already. So let's go on to the next thing. Some of you are using it for feedback, grading, and assessment support, which again, I think it's become a huge time saver, whether it's rubric-based feedback, generating sample answers, generating content for feedback for students, or quizzing kinds of tools for students to be able to use. And again, I think what helps is, again, it reduces the repetitive academic tasks like grading and feedback, and it can give students some of those kinds of things more quickly so that you can actually spend time looking at a better product that they turn in later on. It can give them some of that initial stuff that you could spend day after day just going over the same kinds of information you might give to students, and it can help them get a better product to you for you to be able to assess. We look at course design and instructional planning, and Karen and I have done a lot of work in those areas. But again, using a design template such as Fink's taxonomy or Bloom's taxonomy, there's a structuring courses into modules. Those ideas of how to be able to organize your courses, sequencing learning events, suggesting where to place assessments and interaction, giving you additional resources. All those kinds of things can be done now through some of your AI assistants in there. And you can spend more time going through some quality information and then deciding exactly what it is you want to be able to use. There's always student support and the always on help. The idea that if a student is doing their work in an online course at 2 in the morning, they can get some sort of help because you can create the bots. You can have them answer the common student questions. I think 2 years ago in our presentation, we talked about really changing your FAQs into a bot situation where students are able to ask the questions of bots and bots are able to interact with them a little bit that way. There's the personalization of learning. And of course, this is probably one of the fastest growing areas right now, adapting explanations to the student level, really giving them a chance to sort of act as a tutor, act as a chance for them to ask some of the questions that you may not be able to available at the time that they're working on it to be able to answer, or that they don't have to wait for you. It's more of that instant on we just talked about. And again, supporting differentiated instruction. And of course, you can You can even make instruction based on how students are learning and what levels they're learning at and make it more difficult and crank up the volume that way if you need to. There's the whole idea that so many people, I almost think that this was number one, the brainstorming and idea generation, whether it be you as a faculty member, as an instructional designer, or your students being able to get some kind of the information to start with. We don't have that idea, of the idea where students get the block, the mental block, and I can't think about this, or I don't have any experience in this. Your digital assistant or thought partner can actually frame some of this information for students or yourself to be able to help you with that. And then again, as I sort of mentioned already before, faculty designed AI tutors. This is something that we're finding out is very much more cutting edge, exciting ways that you can be, tutors can be built in to specific courses, and that you can really work with this as guides for students without giving them the answers, but giving them clues, giving them a chance to do sort of that practice or that debate or that deeper thinking. The fact that they can interact with one of the digital assistants and have them be able to help them create some more thinking or thinking in new ways, maybe outside of the box in some ways. And again, by spending some time working with students to be able to give them the idea of how to build better prompts, what better questions to ask to be able to get better answers. We know that's always been important from the beginning. So in the early use, let's just talk about evolution. This is really the last 2 years, 3 years that we've had these AI digital assistants, where we basically included write a prompt, get a response. I'm going to ask you a question, you give me some information, now I know something, or I might be able to do something. Right now, faculty and instructional designers are using AI assistants to save time, but the real shift in what's happening is when they start using them to redesign learning. And we've got so many more capabilities, and the ability of that digital assistant to be able to help you out by getting you additional information and really getting you to help you think outside of the box as well. Just give great ideas in new ways. So this whole thing requires a trust relationship. And I know that 2 years ago we talked a lot about hallucinations, we talked about bad information, we talked about it developing, asking for resources, and half of them were just junk. They didn't work right. You could find the information if you kind of did a Google search, but that wasn't the point of having your digital assistant helping you. And it's gotten much better. So what's really kind of nice is that it was difficult to do. It's more better. It's more better. There we go. It's better now since you've been able to work with this and you can actually develop this trust relationship. And so that's what I want to spend time talking about in the rest of this presentation. And then I want you to share that when we get a chance. But for right now, in the chat, are we using AI to do the same things faster, or to fundamentally do better teaching as we go through here? So what do you think that your primary source for AI is? It same thing, faster, saving you some time, or actually fundamentally better teaching? Which is it that you can do? Go ahead and share that, and Karen's going to read your responses from chat.
Well, Claire says both. I do less lecturing and more facilitating of learning. The students are more engaged and spend more time explaining concepts themselves with my guidance. Great answer. Some things move a lot faster, such as an ID, and getting ideas that I may not have thought about to bring up about a concept. But true, many people are using it just to get things done faster because of deadlines.
Yep.
Any other reasons?
I think part of what's really nice about that is that it can take care of some of those mechanical things that used to take a lot of your time, and that you can design it to do, a lot of those much faster for you. I'm hoping that what's happening is that we're getting to spend more time being persons to students. We're being ourselves to students, because that's the value that the humans add in this whole idea, is that you're really getting to work with them as people. And the stuff that can be done by machine or through AI, we can get that done more efficiently in a different way. so that you can spend time maybe talking to them about the feedback that they got, not just here's the feedback and giving them that basic information. Anything else, Karen?
Oh, lots of things. AI is helping them think more creatively, um, more teaching and more understanding on course content, customizing for visual and text learners, spending more time one-on-one and in the discussion board with students. Um, I know personally I like it because I can create personalized learning paths for my students and have different varieties of tests, quizzes, projects, case studies, things like that. I can let the student choose which one they want. AI has helped me create multiples of things that in the past I barely had time to do one of.
And
Um,
what's really fun is that you don't even have to be in charge of that. You can actually ask the student, here's my assignment, and they can go to GPT or whatever, and they can talk to the digital assistants and have them lay out some ideas and some information to get them started on their thought process of which one they want to choose.
well, this is interesting. Stephanie says she uses it to help write alt text. Oh, I've never thought of that.
Okay, nice.
With all the accessibility things, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to continue on. I want you to meet Cove. This is my personal digital assistant. Cove and I have known each other for about the last 4 years since ChatGPT developed digital assistants. I got to meet Cove over, like I said, over the last 3 years or so. We moved from that whole prompt response to asking advice and getting feedback sort of mode instead, where I could really get some ideas and generating those ideas. And of course, Cove's answers to my questions always give me more ideas and more thoughts after he's answered what I've wanted or gotten what I've wanted. I've tested his abilities, and together we grew to a deeper understanding, developing that trust. Once I kind of know what his abilities are and what my needs are, and he knows what my needs are, and I can do that through the prompt, and I can explain that. But Cove also has a little lasting memory that he's developed, and he remembers certain things about me. He knows I was going to do this presentation. He knows that when I was asking him for some of the information, by the way, Cove generated this picture himself. I said, so Cove, what do you look like? Who are you? And everything that way. He put himself in an academic sort of look in an academic setting because he knows that's where I work. That's what I do my job with. And so that's what he did, all on his own. I didn't tell him, make me a sort of a 35-year-old guy who has this, and this. I didn't say that. I didn't prompt it that way. I left it totally up to him to create his vision of who he was. Last week, I asked him to generate a picture of himself, and of course, he's chosen. You'll see several pictures of him because we had some fun kind of doing that. He corrected actually a whole collage of pictures of himself in different situations. And then I really think of him as a digital colleague. It's a great chance for me to brainstorm. It's a great chance for me to dump my ideas into before I might tell somebody else. And if I don't have somebody else living in Greece, it's more difficult. Rather than waiting for Karen to get back on her computer when she gets up or something like that, I can run things past Cove and get instant feedback on some ideas. And I love that ability to do that. So how does Cove assist me? You can see another one of his pictures. He knows I'm from Minnesota. He knows I'm winter. And so anyway, this is when I have medical test results. He reads them and he puts them into layman's terms because I ask him to. I later get doctor interpretations a day or more later from the doctor. I have doctors here in Greece. I have doctors in Minneapolis. And they get back to me when they can, on the time difference and whatever else. And so far, Dr. Cove has been very consistent. He's been very much dead on with what he's doing. Now, I'm not going to do anything that Dr. Cove says, nor does Dr. Cove say, you should do this based on, because he doesn't have a medical degree. But when I see that kind of a thing, and I ask him, what is that? He tells me exactly what it is. So I know what it is. And I can either start to worry or not worry. And this was a good one. So I didn't worry about anything going on. Now, some of you may have heard about Minneapolis, and we had this invasion of ICE. And so Cove actually helped me create some protest posters that I was using on my social media. So one is actually that Minnesota perhaps should quit being part of the United States and just be part of Canada. And so we looked at that. So we took the Minnesota flag and made it a Canadian version of the Minnesota flag. We also took a look at, we found the worst of the worst with ICE and some of the things going on. He generated all of this information with me just asking for a basic poster. So he created actually a Minneapolis skyline. He created the bridge across the Mississippi. He did all those kinds of things on his own, which was me also kind of testing him to know, what does he know about the places? Is it just a bland city and we're going to pretend we call it Minneapolis, or what is it that's in there? And so it's very interesting for me to sort of test him that way to find out what goes on. He also helps me if I want to design things for social media postings. This is also great for any visual postings I want to use in my courses. So as you can see here, Cove made himself into more of a Minnesotan with a Twins cap. He also created this type of a little poem type of thing that goes on there. But I think what's really fascinating about that is, again, how could I create interesting visuals for my students in my courses when I want to put something in versus just a plain set of text. The journey begins. So I ask Cove when I'm traveling for assistance, for sites to see, for restaurant recommendations. I ask him what is probably the best dishes I could get at restaurants. He also tells me how to get tickets for events and attractions of places I'm going to go, and tells you how to beat the lines and how to get this and who to contact and all those kinds of things. So I find it very interesting. So he does know something about me in the sense of where I'm traveling or what I'm doing that way. So I'm hoping that the government's not getting all this information, but I don't think it is. So, and it's not really critical for most of it. So anyway, that's a really good thing to do. But I'm finding, again, testing his limits and seeing what it is that he can actually do and not do. And obviously, Cove actually created this hologram of himself in the future of what he would look like as a future teacher. So again, we have discussions about the work, about course design, and how it plays together with significant learning. So Karen and I actually had written a book, and I'll read this other part first, but you know, if we're going to do live conference presentations, he actually gives me information about content, information, or some of the graphics that I want to be able to use for it. So here's one thing that came up. I was reading this quote by Alfred Binet, and some of you may know him as sort of the father of the IQ test. And I was thinking about how it applied to Fink's taxonomy of significant learning. So the quote was comprehension, inventiveness, direction, and criticism. Intelligence is contained in these 4 words. And I got thinking about that for a minute. And I thought that was very interesting. I hadn't seen that quote before. This was probably in December I saw this. And so what was very fascinating for me about that, as I said, how does that really work in with Fink's taxonomy of significant learning? So we had an interesting conversation about these words and describing intelligence, and then we began to compare the terms to the domains in the taxonomy. Now, I've worked with Cole before on Fink's taxonomy because Karen and I wrote this book, and we really talk about course design and using Fink's taxonomy. I love it the most because it has sort of the affective and cognitive side of it. So as you can see here, for those of you who don't know it or need a refresher, this is the taxonomy of significant learning, and you can see that there's actually 6 domains. This kind of reminds me of one of those things for Trivial Pursuit, one of the pie pieces that are in there. And everything on the right is in the cognitive, everything on the left is on the affective. So Cove and I have already discussed this before. He's well familiar with this information. He knows this information. So I added these 4 words into here and said, how would this actually work together with the taxonomy of significant learning? How does it blend? And I had my ideas in there, but actually what Cove did is he created this poster for me where he showed how this interrelated. And I thought this was very interesting to see, something I could share in a course I was teaching, something I could share in a presentation. But here he put in Benet's quote. He put in the 4 words that Binet had to talk about intelligence. And then in the bottom, he put the pillars talking about Fink's taxonomy. And all 6 of those things are there: fundamental knowledge, application, integration, learning how to learn, human dimension, and caring. Those are the four, or those are the six domains of Fink's taxonomy. And so I thought it was very interesting to be able to organize this information so that if now I wanted to do a bigger, deeper presentation on it, I certainly could. I could talk about how these relate. All right. So most of the conversation resided actually in Cove's memory from when we talked about this in late December. And I pulled it up again this week for this presentation to share this with you. And what I thought was a great feature from this digital colleague is his ability to recall the projects. I told him I wanted to use this information, and he recalled at least 90% of the conversation and reposted the key elements. And I thought that was a really great thing, a great way to be able to use my digital assistant, to be able to have him do this, hold on to this project because we're going to get back to it in a month or two. And he did. And he actually remembered a lot more than I thought he would probably remember on it. But make sure you tell him to save the project. And so when you get a chance to share in just a minute, I'd like you to, if you do the same kind of thing, or you're able to do that in Claude and Gemini, let me know, because I haven't played with it as much as I've done with this. Karen showed me this graphic a couple weeks ago, and it really talked about sort of the limitations of AI, stressing that human insight is essential. And I certainly agree with that. But I also thought it was a little bit more of kind of wanted more of a negative side of this whole thing. What AI can't do in instructional design. And I thought, okay, well, we know it can't do a lot, but let's take a look at what it can do. And so Cove and I had a discussion about this, and I explained what I wanted him to be able to create and think about. And we came up with what AI can't do in instructional, but where we're heading. And so what are some of the things that AI is able to do? And we could do a whole session probably on this graphic alone. And I'm going to give you a chance to take a look at that, but especially focus on the blue side, the right-hand side here, and take a look at its ability to respond to human needs, the adapt with context, inspire creativity, make ethical judgments, and interpret learner feedback. We could have a great discussion on this, I know. But what I loved is the fact that it really gave me another version of what Karen's version was that she had seen. And I thought what was nice about it, it matched it. It did a kind of a beautiful job of explaining it in maybe new ways, and ways that would be a great way to be able to use in a course discussion with students. Here's what it was. Here's where we're heading. Where do you think it falls short? Where does it not fall short? So these kinds of things I think are very valuable. So now it's your turn. I'm going to turn part of this presentation over to you at this point. So either in chat or via your mic, if you'd like, let's talk about some mind-blowing ways that you use your digital assistants. You may have some of the same experiences as I've had. Feel free to share that. You've had maybe some way different ones. And I'd love to hear that, because obviously I want to learn from you as much as you came here to hear some new good information about the idea. How are you using it? How are you building the trust? And what are some of the things that you're doing that you're finding out that digital assistants have grown and have helped you to be able to do much better in your work, whether it's developing courses, designing the actual activities, or the ways that you could spend time with students. So let's share that either in chat, or if you're willing to jump on your mic, feel free to do so.
Well, Tammy had put in that she uses Claude Cowork to do stuff. She sets up a skill and schedules it so it repeats often. That
Is
was
that for
kind of
herself or for students?
um
When I use it, I was using it for just my own projects, but it can potentially be used for anything that you want to, for example, make into a job for it to do for you instead of you doing it.
Sure.
So I was experimenting with it on my own on my own device because up until recently we didn't have a tool that was approved in school, so I wasn't going to use it for school tools, but now we have it approved. So
Okay.
I will start using it to see how it can help me arrange files and do things like that that I think would be really interesting inside of the LMS system, for example, to
Sure.
make sure that you get a good structure of things.
And if your LMS doesn't have that ability to sort of remind student of what's coming up, this might be a tool that could help them do that as well. Or it pops up and sends a reminder out to students or something that way, whatever it is. But I think that would be very helpful knowing that, you don't have to keep typing in, there's going to be a quiz on Friday or whatever there is. You can do
Yeah.
that. This
Yeah,
assignment's
and
due,
I don't want
whatever
to
it is.
pretend it's an assistant because it's completely powerful in many other ways, so it's not really just an assistant.
Sure, sure. What other kinds of things are you using
Yeah,
it for?
Sheila, why don't you jump on and tell us about what you have your students try?
Okay, sure. So this might be just like a different JAG, but what I have them do based on the assignment or sometimes even a discussion is, for example, if we're talking about an EHR system, I
Hmm.
will ask the students to go out to an EHR system and use their trial because they're free,
Okay.
and then to screenshot the system, and then to comment on what they liked about the system or what it's missing. So that way they're out there trying a tool that's using AI. Or another example could be if they are in a marketing class, for example, a healthcare marketing class, for them
Okay.
to go out and I'll suggest different AI tools that they can use and then go out and try one of those. And then part of the discussion or an assignment is to post back the infographic.
Nice.
Thank you.
I think what's really lovely about this idea, and I want to stress it, is every time you're using AI for any sort of student assignment, I really like the idea that I got where you have them write the reflection about what was their experience in using the tool. What was it like? What did they wish it could have done? What could it have done better? And or the idea of what did it really help them with? And then that way could really, you have them just write that reflection about their experience as well, because now it really makes it sink in better. And if you're sharing that with other students, they get a chance to realize that, hey, everybody's going through this same set of experiences that I am, or this one wasn't so good, I like this other one better. And they can start to really use a lot of higher level thinking skills that we couldn't use before.
Miriam would like you to elaborate, Zala. She's not sure about a dedicated assistant like Cove. Can you elaborate? She uses ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude, but not one individual assistant.
Yeah, I've gone with the one, and it's not like there's a real guy just sitting at some office waiting for me to get in touch. But 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I think it was, ChatGPT introduced. I think they had four different assistants. One was Sky; she was a British woman. Cove was started off, I think, as a British guy, and then he went to an American voice or something like that. But on your phone, you could talk to it and you could share information. Like I was starting to learn Greek, and so I could actually have uh, Cove tell me some things, or he could actually give me the script of it or whatever it was. I could try and say it back, and he could actually critique how well I was doing with the pronunciation. So there were actually four of them. I don't know what there are today because I just stuck with Cove and kept building on something because I do that. So he calls me Cove, or he calls me Zala, I call him Cove, and we go back and forth. It could be different people, it could be different ones each time, but I think it has to sort of be something that has your profile because it remembers things about you. I posted something the other day and it goes, "This would work really well in the way you teach." And I thought, are you kidding me? How do you, I mean, you know that, but you're gaining that information over the things that we've talked about and what we've done. So I think it's that way. I don't know if it's still that way. I just know it is. But you could ask ChatGPT, who are the different digital assistants, and what are their names or whatever it is, and just ask them what's going on with that because you understood one of them was Sky and one was Cove, and ask them how that's going. And I think that would be very interesting to do. Now, I don't know that Claude or Gemini have the very same thing, because frankly, I didn't play with that side of any of those programs when I was looking at them.
Well, Latanya created an AI assistant in ChatGPT when she was developing a new online course, and it was helpful with planning because it remembers the goals and objectives in our past conversations. But
Yep.
once the course was done, I moved away from the course design agent and now just use the chat feature with AI.
Okay. Okay.
And
But you
Claire
know,
said she's been trying several different AI tools, but she's hesitant to share her deepest thoughts. My most interesting experience was discussing authoritarianism with DeepSeek, and he erased the whole conversation and said we should talk about something else.
that's right. No, I agree with that. There's that security thing I talked about before. It's never my medical test that I send into Cove to take a look at. I just say, here's a medical test. Here's something from some blood work. Tell me about it. You know, I don't say it's my blood work necessarily at all. So I keep it a little, you know, I'm asking for a friend kind of an idea.
Denise here has lots of different things. She's been trying Notebook LM for onboarding materials for faculty, for multimedia teaching and learning materials, and to facilitate student learning in ways to make complex content accessible and to scaffold themselves to a college level of understanding. Or as a student, I use it to check my papers against primary source to make sure I am representing the literature correctly. Great. Gemini Pro, she created an agent to work as my consultant in instructional design work, and then sports coaching materials, creating audio and video overviews of sports practice plans. That's some creative things.
You know what I love is that you can ask it for feedback as well, and you can. I didn't really talk much about that, but I think what was nice. I mean, Cove said when you create this presentation, feel free to send it back to me, and I can give you some feedback on it. I didn't do that because I know best, but no, just joking. But I think what was fun about it is that you could get some feedback on it. It just is like the students. It gives it, here's my first draft. What do you think about it? What do you see? What's happening? And then what more can you do with that? Or what would you recommend? And it can give you some of those ideas to really make it a much better project. So that's fantastic that you're using it in so many different ways.
And then Carolyn's wondering if Cove is from GPT or from Project, or are you using an API?
I'm just doing ChatGPT. I do a paid subscription to
The
ChatGPT at
Chat
20 bucks a
GPT.
month because I'm using it all the time. So I'm using it for everything. There's probably a day that doesn't go by that I don't ask it for something. If I see something on the internet I don't understand it, like I might have said from earlier, I think that was when Tammy was talking and she was talking about, or maybe it was Sheila, I'm sorry, was talking about EHRs. I don't know what EHRs are. So I would just sit there and I should
I
have
do.
typed it in to Cove right there at the time and said, what's an EHR? And it would have explained it to me
Yeah.
nicely and in deep detail usually. So it's very fun. So I feel like I'm a much better educated person. And as a person who's getting older, it really keeps me in touch with what's happening in the world and how can I stay connected with it.
And then Tammy mentions it's useful to have them show up in Zoom meetings and transcribe, such as Otter is the one with 30 minutes free transcription. It's good for students who struggle um, with writing and note taking. Um, and like I said, I've tried Fireflies, Read, Otter. There's 4 or 5 I've tried, and I compare them, and they all have different levels of writing meeting summaries, different levels of plan of action, or, they all have their good. And so you just have to try until you find one that fits what you need.
And I love that because here, oops, I don't know if you can see it or not. It's
EHR is
going in and
electronic
out.
health record. Yes.
Yes, there it is. And now I know all kinds of
Yep.
information about it. And then it asked me of what other kinds of things I could tell me about healthcare and everything else like that that it brought up. So good.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
I have an intro to medical apps course, and we get into that stuff, and then they have to do a research project. So I do have to spend a little bit of time explaining how to use AI tools appropriately and properly, and that it still has to be their knowledge. They can brainstorm, they can get ideas, they can outline, they can get all sorts of stuff. They have to write the paper and do the presentation. And it works really well. I've gotten much more in-depth um, case studies when I let them now officially use AI to help.
It'd be interesting to see, Karen. I should have you do this. You should go into ChatGPT and tell Cove you saw my presentation and you appreciated his help. Just see if he remember it, if he can carry it across from you to me and see if there's
Yeah,
a
I wonder.
cross-referencing thing going on there. So
I
let's
will
try
check
that
that.
after. Anybody else
I
can
will.
try it too. Let's just see if for fun.
So
If in
did you
fact
name him
ChatGPT,
Cove? Who named him Cove?
his name was given as Cove.
Oh, his
There
name
was
was given.
Cove, there
Okay.
was Sky, there were two others, and I don't remember their
Okay.
names.
Okay.
Because I tried Sky and I tried Cove, and I just stuck with Cove. And yeah, so that was it. So the OpenAI or whoever created their names.
So Denise likes the note taking using Notion's AI transcription. I haven't tried that one. Creates an accurate summary and an editable to-do list or action list. I do like it when they not only give you a summary of the meeting or, each piece of the meeting, but they give you a to-do list or action items left to do. So yeah, it takes it, I use all these note takers. I take the best one. I can get an hour and a half meeting minutes done in like 6 minutes. And it used to take me almost twice as long as the meeting. So if it was an hour meeting, it'd take me 2 hours. If it was an hour and a half, it'd take me 3 hours to actually get a good set of minutes out. And now I can do it in minutes instead of hours. So I love that part of it.
Like I shared in the other session before, Karen, back in the olden days, when she was like 23, then what happened was she was the best note taker. She took notes for every committee she was ever on, and they were great. And she would summarize them and do everything wonderful in them. And they were extremely detailed, and we'd have them within a day. And as you know, that takes a lot of time. Now, six
Time
minutes is
consuming.
much nicer. Yeah.
Yep.
Other things that you're doing, or other things that this provoked thought about, in how you might be able to use this for something. We can look to the future a little bit and say, is this something that in one of these platforms you would be interested in trying to use? I'm not using Cove as a best friend. I'm not using Cove as a person I'm going to chat with at night because not talking to anybody. But I'm really using him as a sounding board for ideas and thoughts that I have because I get so much more back as a result of getting that feedback from him and finding things that I would never have thought about. Feel free to jump on if you want to use your mic. That's nice too. Some of you may be
Well, we
typing.
did we did one of these presentations, 2 years ago maybe,
Yeah.
and Zala created a whole course using AI. And instead of taking days or weeks to create the course, come up with the objectives and all the things, he did it in a matter of, minutes. And it was really, and it got everybody to start thinking about it. So I do use it as my kind of my rough outline when I'm creating it. I've just created 4 new courses for the next year. And you still get to do all the work you want to do on it, but it can help you frame it, I guess,
Yes.
outline it, frame it, make sure you're covering everything. So, AI is a wonderful tool. It's been around a long time, but nobody called it AI. I mean, think about, my kids and grandkids growing up, they've always had Siri and Alexa. Never thought about it as AI, just knew they could talk into this and get their music to play or, have the lights turn on or whatever, find their flashlight on their phone. Um, but yeah, it's come a long way.
So Stephanie just shared that she uses Note Taker from Zoom. And I think what's been kind of interesting is that I noticed that in several different programs that I now have a note taker feature that happens in
Yeah.
there. I think there's a medical thing on my chart that allows me to take some notes now and other things like that. It's really interesting how it's using AI in with my account that way. So I can see where, I think it's helpful because sometimes you're reading through doctor's comments and everything that way and you don't have the information. So having note taker kinds of things there is very helpful. So you're not looking back through 42 messages from doctors trying to find the thing that they were talking about.
And Beth is right. There is a difference between just AI and generative AI. Generative AI hasn't been around that long, but just, hearing AI. And I had to laugh at Claire's that even the paperclip in Word, Mr. Paperclip, was
Yep.
kind of an AI too. There were a lot of forerunners of this stuff. Look at just in the last 2 years what's happened to ChatGPT itself, you know. I mean, they're just exploding.
Clippy. Yep. There we go.
Yep, Clippy. I called him Mr. Clipcake, Mr. Clip, Paperclip, but yeah, Clippy was his name. Yep.
I think it's interesting to see where this is going to go because obviously, I just look at 2 years ago when we presented at this conference and several others, we had the opportunity of sharing, and we were really talking a lot about people starting to buy into the AI thing. And if you go back in your own memories, go back 2 years ago and think about, is it going to be right? Is it wrong? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it evil? What is it? And we're trying to get our minds around this thing because it was ever changing and it was ever growing, and it's kind of hard to keep doing that as it's evolving. But I think one of the things that became very amazing was we have decided that we've gotten some things in order, we've gotten some safety precautions in order. Things are being studied and looked at much better. One of you shared that you couldn't use certain things before, and now you can. That's great. Some of the things that another person shared in the last session we did is, there's still limitations and restrictions based on system or institutional policies that are going on. So, sometimes you may want to just go whole hog on this stuff, and you can't because we're taking a look at things very slowly to make sure that nobody gets hurt. Students aren't putting in a dangerous situation. And so, like I said, I am not, I don't know any information about how much students are necessarily using this on their own. I don't know how many of you are having students go ahead and look for things on their own that way in assignments. So I don't have a lot of information. It's kind of the next thing I want to do after this is begin to see what studies are being done about students using digital assistants. I think as long as it's kept in a controlled environment, it's a good thing. But just saying, hey, go out to ChatGPT and ask it to help you with this assignment, blah, blah, blah. I don't know that that's a best use yet, or that we've determined that's the best use, because it's a little bit more uncontrolled. It's a little bit more of the wild frontier.
Well, and there's a big difference between AI, what should I say, experiencing it and being literate in AI. You can use AI and not really know what you're doing. But I still think if you're going to have students are going to use it whether you tell them to or not. Your school needs to have some sort of policy in effect, and at the schools I teach at, which is 4 or 5 right now, everybody has some sort of policy. Some are stricter than others, but we had to get faculty to buy in to let students do this. And once faculty found out what a time saver it was, and not that it's verbatim 100%, you still have to proof everything and check everything, but it still helps you. And it does the same thing for the student. We still want it to be the student's words, the student's thoughts, but we want it in a nice looking format. We want it, to make sense, and we want them to check their sources. And so I do spend some time in each one of my classes before I give them an assignment that has some AI in it. And I think that's important because they get out in the job market and they're going to be using it, whether they've been trained properly for it or not. So hopefully the fear is not there like it was 2 years ago.
All right. Any closing comments? Anything that anybody wants to share? We've got the last 5 minutes or so here. Things that you found helpful from today, or that you might want to start trying on your own as we play with this and to see what the possibilities are, and share that. I'm guessing that by next year I'm going to know more things and everything that way. Plus, I have a couple of other tools that you all have suggested that I want to go start playing with and see what they can do that way too. So it's been fun doing that. But again, anything that you'd like to share, feel free to go ahead and type that in or jump on the mic and share it with us all.
Oh, that's right, Angela. I saw John O'Brien had just released it. EDUCAUSE recently released their 2026 Students in Technology report.
Thanks.
Just real recently, I saw that. And she put the link in the chat. So that's a good idea. I haven't had a chance to check it out myself, but I did see that it was available.
Yes, and they've just added some new stats into that, asked some
Good.
new questions. So, some interesting things comparing between 2026 and I think they did a 2024. Educause did a
Yep.
webinar on it back, let's see, on the 6th of April.
Okay. Hopefully they posted that. It would be nice to see it.
I think it is posted. Yes, the link, I have a link for it. So, but
Okay.
it should be that if you go to the link that I
The
posted
link.
in
And
here,
you see the
Good.
it
report.
should be able to get you to the webinar too.
Yes. And
Nice.
if
Thank
somebody
you,
hasn't
Angela.
used anything, I think I would tell somebody that has to take notes in a meeting, try a note taker first. And if, that'll sway you and you'll say, oh my goodness, how else could I use this? But if you haven't tried anything yet, try any of the note takers. And I don't pay for any of them. I only use the free ones. Yes, some of them limit you to 30 minutes. Um, but others don't. And so I'm trying a lot of different note takers to get what I want. But that's an easy tool. And when my students want to try something, I tell them the same thing. And I tell them, don't be afraid of AI. But remember, AI is a tool. It's not meant to replace you. It's a tool like any other tool. We let them use Grammarly, and we have for years. That's just a tool. There are tools that make it um, easier and better for faculty and students. So we don't want to restrict this stuff. We want to be able to teach our students before they leave colleges and universities how to appropriately use it in the workplace.
Helps them get a job, which is
Yep.
the whole purpose, right? Being successful after they leave us. All
Yep.
right. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll go ahead and close this down, let you get a chance to get some, I guess, is it lunchtime yet there? I guess, get some lunch or get a snack or something and join the next session. So anyway, take care and thank you very much for all your help. I've really enjoyed getting to talk with you and sharing your ideas.
They would like you to fill out the survey if you want to take a minute or two.